Welcome everybody to the show, Pod and reviewing the week ending December 17th, 2021. Welcome to the show, Jacob.
Yes.
And so the week started off with Sal Aguilar, and any Aguilar is a friend of mine, and it was nice having him on the show, wasn't it?
That was great. He's a former student, as I shared before. He's a man now. He's a teacher. It was great having him on.
Yes. The what struck me is if we had a top 5 kindest gentlemen that have been on the show, I'm thinking of was it Mr. Moreno?
Definitely.
And I'm thinking of Sal. Real good, decent person.
Right.
Just comes out.
You know what I liked about him, though, too, about the interview is that one time you did something that you've never done before, and that is offer some advice. And Sal was like, yeah, just give it to me. You know, he was so wanting that. It was so cool.
And the other reason why I gave him that advice is because the exact thing that we were talking about is something that I've been ruminating over through the last couple of years. The idea of what happens when you ask a question and students don't respond.
Yeah.
I used to process it as, oh, the question wasn't good, or students don't know. Mm-hmm. But haven't you had that moment where, what am I going to do? But lately, I've experienced this idea of, I'm going to embrace this silence. Yeah. Because haven't you been in a university class where a teacher's asked a good question and you are really working it out?
Oh, yeah. And not only working it out, I mean, I hate to say this, but maybe even sometimes the kids feel like they don't want to give the wrong answer. I know I had dealt with some of those issues of not feeling good about myself, maybe not sure. And, you never know where the kids are at. Maybe they're just having a bad day too. So yeah, you're right. There are all these possibilities of why they're not answering. And he seemed to be pretty open to hearing. I like that about Sal. Sal, he's this, we shared, this is his first semester. So he's still going through it, but he seems so confident. And I think I think you might agree with this, Ruben, that part of the job to being a new teacher is feeling confident, because the kids feed off that. They know when if you come in there like, I don't know, they will just, especially if you're teaching middle school, they will. I know that's how I felt when I first started teaching middle school. It was like, I wasn't really sure myself. I think they sensed, they smelled the fear.
Right. Yeah, it's fear. I guess fear is a way to put it, but I think that I think that the idea of strength, of confidence.
Yeah.
And you were mentioning it, the idea of being in there with confidence. So that's absolutely right. Because the students want to feel like they're in good hands. There have been moments when I've been really giving the wrath of God to a particular kid. I really noticed this early on in my teaching career, is really, or maybe even removing a kid. And then some of the other students reacting to me very gently and nice, and hi, Mr. Aguilar, and wanting to almost thanking me for taking care of business. Have you had that kind of experience?
Oh, for sure. I mean, they'll tell you afterwards. They go, we don't like when he acts like that, or I don't like when he does. So they won't do it in class because they don't want to show up the kid there. But in private, they'll say, oh, I didn't like that when he does that, or when she does that. And I go, yeah, right. I got. So it just kind of makes you feel like, okay, I was on the right track, So
I did ask him about a book, and he couldn't recall the title, but it had a book that he would recommend. But he did mention the importance of classroom management style and books. So it'll give me the opportunity to mention a book that Paul James said a couple of weeks ago, and the book is titled Classroom Management for Elementary Teachers by Carolyn Evertson. Okay, then we had your assignment, which was on the progressive and muckraker movement. Any thoughts since we've had that episode?
So it's funny. Recently, I was getting back to posters, and the kids told me, Mister, don't forget to take any pictures. I said, oh yeah, because I have them on the wall. So I think maybe in a future episode when I could show a couple of those pictures, just if we have a couple minutes to spare.
What do you mean
But
those pictures?
I'm sorry.
Explain that.
So let me explain that. Thank you. So the pictures are of the final product of the poster, of the progressive poster, where I had students pick a progressive from the early 1900s, and then also tell me why they're progressive, and then of course link them to today's times, things that are happening today that what those people would be like, yeah, give their stamp of approval. I'd be part of.
So it's a picture of the poster of the final product. Exactly. And you want the photo, a picture, why?
Well, not only for this podcast, but for more importantly, for next year when I give this assignment again, that I give examples, because that's what the kids are asking for. And
student examples of final products.
Examples. And I think that's something for the audience to know, because I know I'm like a bonehead. I got rid of a lot of my stuff during COVID. I mean, I had all this, I was like, I just want to clear everything out. And then now I'm regretting it. So I'm taking photographs.
Now, I have a question. You mentioned in the video the presentation would be delivered, like you just said, in a poster.
Yeah.
But you also asked, as an alternate possibility, a Flipgrid. Flipgrid is a video app. For those of those who don't know, you record a video, and it's very user friendly. So teachers use it a lot. But what do you think about other alternatives, such as Google Slides, podcast, YouTube video?
I'm glad you shared that, because I think I will open those possibilities, because there was a couple kids who said, Mister, can I do it on a slide?
Yeah.
And I first said no, but I said, no.
Wow. You said no? Really?
I did. For a second, I did. And then I said, why not? And then, in your mind, I'm playing in my head, like, why not? No, I said, I'm sorry. Go ahead, go and do it. I was thinking, because, everyone else is doing it. I said, you know what? It's fine. We all have our different reasons, and different, because they had some good reasons. Like, they didn't have ink in their cartridge for printing. I said, you know what? Yeah. Why don't you go ahead and put it on the slide? So I had three students who did it on the slide.
Well, let me say this. Mm-hmm. A Google slide will actually solve your first problem. Excuse me, I have like a frog in my throat.
Of saving material.
Now you have nothing to save or take pictures of. It's already there.
Good point.
It's always there for Google Slides, and you'd be surprised if for anybody who hasn't worked with Google Slides, there are some sophisticated looking projects. Now it just has to be done. Mm-hmm. You need to take time to make it look right. If you just throw it up on a slide, it's like anything else. You're not putting the time in, but you can make it look very cool.
Oh yeah, and and not all the presentations were worthy of saving it. I can say, because you could tell some kids just put it together, but there are some who really well thought it out. And part of the project was for them to share it, and so when they shared, some of them were so articulate and were able to make those connections. And I'm like, wow! I go, that was great. The presentations were even much better than the posters.
Okay, very very good project idea, and the next video we did was on the Great Debaters.
The Great Debaters, for some reason I kept wanting to say the Great Defenders or something. I can't remember it always messes up in my mind. But
by the way, the Great Debaters is a film starring Denzel Washington. Yes. So what are your thoughts about the film?
So I'm sorry. Yeah. So Denzel Washington also directed this film, and I just liked that we even saw it. This is, I think, our first film, Ruben, that we did regarding college students and a college professor, I believe. And I can't think of another one that we did like
the first one we ever did, the first film?
I think so.
It was Freedom Writers.
That was high school. Those were high school kids. I'm talking about the first.
But you're saying the first film that we reviewed.
No, that had to do with college kids.
Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. And so that being said, though, I enjoyed the film, and I know you pretty much did as well. There's some things that like you mentioned, there could have been two movies, but I did like the fact that, like I shared before, it's historical. Anything that's historical. If anybody in our audience likes historical films, this is one of those where it's and I love the portrayal of these students and their times. This is in the 1930s, where in the middle of Jim Crow, they're in Texas, and they're dealing with a lot of racial issues, right? But you see the strength in them. You see the adult leaders who have gone before them, before these students, to pave the way, really, And this movie portrays this. And you had mentioned the James Farmer Sr., who was a pastor, great role model for his son. At first, he had some issues with his son that wasn't sure if his father was weak because how he kind of responded to a white racist
Good,
in the film.
good,
Go ahead.
good segue into what I was going to mention.
Go ahead.
I was going to mention this, and I even wrote it down, but I didn't get to it,
Yeah.
or I forgot to get to it. Is there's a scene involving Forrest Whitaker's
Yes.
family driving, and they accidentally hit some livestock, and kill an animal
Mm.
owned by Southern white racists. Okay, and
Yeah.
there is a moment where these racists are demanding Forrest Whitaker take care of this livestock in their way and to pay for it and to help, but they're
Yeah.
just treating him like dirt. So um, you could see that it's a point of tension throughout the film that Forrest Whitaker's character, the pastor,
Hmm.
doesn't take care of business. You know, he could just clean these guys' clocks
Oh yeah.
if he wanted to,
Big dude.
but he just, and the family's watching him, and he sort of kowtows, or
Hmm.
does everything and it's one of those weird scenes. It really was it was a scene of power, because for me, I kept going back and forth. He should have cleaned their clocks. But then I said, no, he did the right thing.
Yeah.
He's protecting his family. But then you go back and forth. Right now, I'm on team. He did the right thing
Yeah.
by doing exactly what the white racists asked him to do. It wasn't. I mean, it was just help him with the pig, pay off this pig. It was an accident. But he was a man of courage who was defending his family, really, ultimately. Good
When
scene.
you're, when you're sharing that, Ruben, real quick, in the last debate of the movie, they deal with civil disobedience, and I think maybe there's a little tie into that regarding. I think the young man says something to the point with, you know what, you would want maybe me to be part of civil disobedience instead of being violent, and he goes, I could choose to do the wrong thing and be violent, or I could just
Right.
do, like, do my constitutional right, which is to protest and things like that. So
I do want to say too, real quickly, the the idea of high expectations
mm,
was key to Denzel Washington's success.
yeah.
That teacher character, and always a good idea to keep your expectations high. You may have to make accommodations for students, but don't lower your expectations, and that's one of the hardest things to do.
Oh yeah.
And I do mention accommodations a couple of times on this channel. If you don't know how to accommodate your students with IEPs, you might want to ask their case carrier or a SPED teacher who will help you. But we probably should hit that issue in a
Hmm.
future episode. We could talk about how to accommodate students, and we can cover that. The other thing is the last video of the week: right-wing bias in the classroom? Question mark.
What?
And your thoughts about that as we
Yeah.
wind down?
You asked me. I think you weren't sure if I wanted to do that episode, but thanks for asking me. And I wasn't proud of what was discussed, which was a young man who wrote a letter to us saying, you know what, Mr. Eckert, he said some really positive things. He was great in the class, or he was a good teacher. Or first he said he liked the lesson that I put up on progressives, but then he went into talking about how I once said I was a Republican, and how that there are a lot of kids who are still dealing with the 187 issue, and he was saying it in a really nice way. I mean, he wrote really well, and I think I know who that young man is, or the person is, and so it made me be okay to talk about it, because I think over the years I have really thought hard about that issue, and I've had people tell me different things and give me different advice, and I pretty much have tried to stay just not giving my political leanings. Although, of course, biases come in, and we talked about that. But the whole thing regarding coming down to, I just really want kids to think for themselves, and have those critical thinking skills, and be able to let them give them the evidence on both sides, and let them, of course, mull it over in their minds. But it was good. It was tough, because it's something I feel like I failed in. And I haven't been perfect at, and I definitely want to. We could criticize, or I could criticize the left, and I've had some teachers who have who have told me things that they've said in class who are pretty liberal, and I go, wow, I just wouldn't have done that. But but I had to take the log out of my own eye first, right? So it was pretty difficult first to hear what you were sharing, but it was good for me to hear.
I, I have a couple of reactions. First of all, I don't think you were apologizing for what you believed, which
No,
is
no,
the key. I know. Let me just get this out because this maybe people might interpret it. You're not apologizing for what you believe. You're apologizing for how you presented it, your belief, maybe in the environment. You're trying to, right?
yeah,
That's
for
pretty
sure.
much right.
Yeah, thanks for saying that. Yeah.
The other thing is, oh, real quickly about the 187 thing. Now, this is something that is related to how the well has gotten poisoned. And some people might not agree with me when I say this, but it is possible to not agree with the bill,
Oh,
or
sure.
to agree with the bill and not be a racist.
Yeah.
It's to me, but you see, even me saying that will get people's your feathers ruffled. But I'm gonna end with this particular anecdote. I I think that the question is, how do you not skew far in one direction? Because we mentioned this in the Great Debaters, or no, the last video, the right wing bias video, is how do you not show your bias? Because everyone does have a bias. How do you not skew far in one direction? But I think one way to do it is to present the other side not as a caricature, but how they would be comfortable you presenting it, or how they would present their side. That's really hard, and
Oh,
some
yeah.
people won't buy that. Some people think, no, that's their propaganda, But I remember a friend of mine, Preston, a tech guy from the last school I was at, and just to give an idea, he told me a thing one time, something, and just to give you an idea of his political bias, if you can call it that, is he's a Bernie fan, Bernie Sanders, and so he's definitely a person on the left. But I remember him saying that he thinks that conservatives are fine people who truly think what they're doing for this country is going to help the country. He says, but they're just wrong. And I think if you go about it looking at your other side as if they're evil, then it's hard to stay open-minded. Oh, yeah. And it'll just keep you rigid, and it's hard to find that good feeling for the other side. It's a good way to go about it, but I think unfortunately for some people it's a bridge too far. So
yeah, and I think some people just feel like they have to be like I'm not sure if it's a messiah complex or whatever it is, but they feel like they have to get their kids on the right path, or they're going to be falling destruction. It's like no. And between you and I, Ruben, my beliefs, my spiritual beliefs, by far more important to me than my political beliefs. And so why I say that is because I'm able to look at a different lens. Like, these are just two political parties, and you know what? And they're wrong a lot of times, and they have something good to say a lot of times as well.
I have to ask you this because I'm so glad I just remembered. I was about to sign off, but I mean, I'm just curious. I'm just curious because the email had to do, the email by EB had to do with specifically, aside from his appreciation for the SNL sketches that you introduced, but also he mentioned the 2000 election, Bush versus Gore. Some people watching this might not even remember that debacle. But I got to ask, I'm just curious, have your feelings for George W. Bush changed over the years? Because according to the email, obviously I know you have a great deal of respect for George W. Bush. Has any of that changed at all? Just out of curiosity.
I'm glad you asked that. I think in my lifetime, different people that I remember, like Reagan, let's say, Carter, Bush, Clinton. I think my feelings on all of them have changed over the years, and including George Bush. I think at the time, in the heat of battle, political season, you're rah-rahing. But afterwards, when you have time to reflect, I would say that I'm a little more critical than George Bush than I was maybe in the past. And I would say that goes for almost every politician. I think I get a little bit more critical. I can't think of one that I haven't mixed. Maybe Reagan. I thought Reagan did a really great job. Although even towards his end, it got murky.
So you're more critical of George W. Bush now.
Oh yeah, I would. Okay. But to be fair to every politician,
so you have changed a little bit in your
to answer your question,
in your reflection on him.
Sure.
Okay, I was just wondering.
Yeah.
I'll leave my opinion about him.
Maybe for another time you could share with us on your George W. Bush.
Okay. Right. Okay, everybody. Thank you for listening, for participating. Tell us what you think. You can't dislike the video.
You can't?
You can't dislike it. It's impossible.
Maybe
it's
we could
impossible
do those
now.
Maybe we could do those subscriptions too. Get those coming in.
Well, I don't say that anymore because they see it on the video.
Okay.
Subscribe, so it's kind of repetitive. But I guess subscribe, everybody. Right. Have a good one, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Oh, last thing. We're going to go on a little 3-week sabbatical, but we'll see you in the new year.
All right, after break. See you guys.
Bye-bye, everybody.